You know, for decades, if you asked anyone about the world's best education system, one country would pop into their head almost instantly: Finland. It's been the global gold standard for quality, for equity, for success. But what if that legendary system is facing a bit of an identity crisis? Let's get into it.
And look, that reputation is totally earned. Finnish students have consistently crushed it on international tests, and you've had educators from all over the world making these trips, these pilgrimages, trying to figure out the secret sauce. But lately, some really interesting and frankly troubling data has started to pop up and is painting a much more complicated picture.
And that really brings us to the heart of this explainer, what we're calling the Finnish education paradox. The very system that we all celebrate for its incredible consistency, well, it's starting to show some real signs of strain. Let's just look at the raw numbers.
Okay, so according to the latest PISA data, and that's the big global test that compares students all over the world, the number of Finnish students who are underachieving in mathematics has shot up by over 12 percentage points since just 2012. That's a huge jump. It's a really worrying trend.
And it's not just a math problem. When you look at reading, it's a very similar story. The share of underachievers there has climbed by more than 10 percentage points in that same time frame. Something is definitely going on.
This doesn't stop after the main school years either. The rate of young people who are leaving education or training early, it's actually crept up to be higher than the EU average. So you see, these aren't just little dips or blips on a chart. They're pointing to some bigger systemic issues. And that leads to a really critical question.
Right, this is the big one. What on earth is happening here? Is the Finnish model that we all admire, is it actually failing? Or is there something else at play? To even begin to answer that, we have to go back and understand what the entire system was built on in the first place.
You see, the Finnish miracle wasn't built on a mountain of standardized tests or top-down government rules. Nope, it was built on one single, incredibly powerful idea: trust.
This quote just nails the core philosophy. The system doesn't see teachers as cogs in a machine that need to be managed. It sees them as highly educated professionals, as leaders. And this isn't just some feel-good slogan. It's a baked-in principle called teacher autonomy. This is it. This is the absolute key. In Finland, teachers are trusted to be the experts in their own classrooms. They have the freedom and the responsibility to shape the curriculum, to decide how to teach and how to assess their students, all based on their professional judgment. Let's see what that actually looks like on the ground.
Now, what's so cool about this is how these four pillars all lock together. It starts with making sure every single teacher has a research-based master's degree. It's super selective. Because they're so highly qualified, the system can then justify giving them the power to design curriculum and assess their own kids. And if you trust them that much, guess what you don't need? You don't need school inspectors looking over their shoulder. They actually got rid of them back in the 90s.
And all of this autonomy happens inside a really fair structure. For the first 9 years, every kid goes to the same kind of comprehensive school. There's no separating them into different tracks. So the whole system is designed from the ground up for trust and for equality. But that very system is now running into some brand new pressures.
So here's the twist. The problem isn't that the model of trust and teacher freedom is wrong. The real challenge is that this decentralized, locally run system is now facing these huge, modern, nationwide problems that, frankly, it just wasn't designed to handle. I mean, think about it, right? A system that completely relies on local teachers and schools to do the right thing is incredibly powerful. But what happens when you have a big issue, like changing demographics or new economic demands, that requires a single, coordinated response across the entire country? That's where things get tricky. Take this for example. While Finland is still a super equitable country compared to most, you're starting to see new gaps appear. The rate of kids leaving school early is way higher for foreign-born youth. That's a problem that needs a consistent nationwide strategy for inclusion, not just a school-by-school approach.
And here's another paradox for you. Finland has one of the highest rates of students signing up for science, technology, engineering, and math in the entire EU. I mean, they're way above the average. On paper, that looks like a massive win, right?
But it's still not enough. The country's own tech industry is warning of a massive skills shortage, saying they'll need 130,000 new skilled workers. So even Finland's amazing performance isn't keeping up with what the modern economy demands. The system, clearly, has to adapt.
And that's exactly what Finland is doing. They aren't panicked. They're not tearing down their successful model and starting from scratch. No, instead, they're making some very smart, targeted, nationwide adjustments to tackle these new challenges head-on.
This is such a fascinating strategy. You see them doing two things at once. To fight that slide in basic skills, they're adding more teaching hours and dealing with distractions like smartphones. At the same time, they're launching these very specific national programs to close those equity gaps we saw for disadvantaged and immigrant students. It's this perfect blend of broad support and laser-focused help.
So, what does this all mean for the world's most famous education system? Well, it's not a story about failure. It's a story about evolution.
And this is probably the most important thing to understand. Finland is doubling down on its core belief, trusting its amazing teachers. But now it's adding a layer of national strategy on top to give direction and support where it's needed most. They're trying to get the best of both worlds, that local freedom with a bit more national coherence.
Really, Finland's next chapter is being written as we speak. Whether they succeed in balancing these cherished principles with all these new modern pressures, well, that's going to hold lessons for educators all across the globe. The Enigma continues.